everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Black-Liberation.Tech podcast. I am your host, Dr. Renee Jordan, and today we're going to take a look at a road to a PhD, take 3. So just to recap where I left off, in the last episode, I talked about purchasing a Honda and how I, in 2012, just paid it off and got new shocks and struts. And I also got the AC fixed. And then in November of 2012, I totaled the car on my way home from Atlanta, Georgia, after attending the National Science Teacher Association Conference. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pick up a little bit where I left off and move forward. So I just paid off the car in spring of 2012. And after totaling it, I was just like, Lord have mercy. Now, before I was going to get a job when I moved to Atlanta to go to Georgia State University, but now I really needed a job. And so having a paid off car would have allowed there to be less pressure on me in order to make a certain salary. And now the pressure was on. So I needed to work full time. So I would need to work immediately as opposed to taking my time. So after totaling that car, I knew that I was going to have to get another one. And the other one that I was going to get was not going to be covered by whatever the check was that the insurance company gave me for my other car. So I knew I had to work. So that was November, the Monday before voting in 2012. And after calling the police, I made arrangements to stay at a Holiday Inn that wasn't too far up the road. And I was able to stay there until the morning. And I went ahead and put in arrangements to rent a car. I also called my credit union so that I could get pre-approved for another car. And that way, when I went car shopping, I would be able to walk in and say, this is my budget and this is what I want. So that was my first time being able to walk into the car shopping process, having a pre-approved amount and knowing what my interest rate would be, as well as my monthly payment. So that definitely set me up for success. And I recommend anyone who's shopping for a car to get pre-approval, specifically if you are with a credit union, because chances are you will be able to get a lower interest rate with your credit union than you would a traditional bank. So that was the Monday before voting. I had the day off. I rented a car to drive myself the rest of the way back to Maryland. And on Tuesday, I voted and I went shopping online. And this time I went through CarMax. And so I saw the car that I wanted. It was in Ellicott City. I put in a notice saying that I was interested in the car. It was a 2010 Honda Accord Coupe. And they had it shipped to the Laurel location so that I could test drive it because they require test driving before purchasing. And so on that Wednesday, I was able to test drive the car and I was able to purchase the car, initially starting off with the financing supplied by CarMax and then providing my credit union with the information so that they could pay it off and essentially transfer the loan to them. It was the best car buying experience that I ever had, and I definitely would recommend pre-approval and working with CarMax or someone who has a no hassle policy when it comes to purchasing a car. I went that route because the other car buying processes, man, they were torturous. I had to take my brother with me because people wanted to play because I was a female if I showed up by myself. And even when I showed up with my brothers, sometimes they still wanted to play. So anyhow, I got a 2010 gray Honda Accord Coupe. All of these cars that I purchased, with the exception of the red Honda Civic in 2004, have been gray. But anyway, I knew I had to get a job that was in November of 2012. And based on the conversation with the people at the National Science Teacher Association meeting, I had an idea of what county I wanted to look into in terms of employment. I checked out the website and saw that they had a job fair. Now, keep in mind, I have been applying to jobs in Atlanta and at least since April of 2012, but I really was looking at positions for longer than that. I was applying to teaching positions, and then I also was applying to Georgia Department of Education positions. The thing is, with the Georgia Department of Education, the positions that I was applying for required that I have a teaching license for the position. That was another reason why I was making sure that I got the Georgia Educator Certificate so that I would be able to apply to those jobs as well. So since I had been applying to those jobs in and near Atlanta for so long, I was like, I need to go to this job fair in person because these people are seeing my address and phone number and they think I'm playing games. So I flew down to the job fair. There was only one high school science position available, and that one science position was in biology. So when I got there, I was told that they were just taking resumes and they weren't even giving interviews. I was like, what kind of job fair is this? And so I told the principal of the high school who had the one high school science biology teaching position, I flew all the way down here for this job fair. And she was like, oh, really? Well, let's see what we can do. So she arranged for me to talk to the people at the school, which included the assistant principal who was over STEM subjects, as well as the department chair for sciences. So I talked to them, and then I had an interview with the principal afterwards. And then they offered me the job right then and there. And that was December of 2012. And so I accepted the position. I must say my steps are ordered. Hello? If you know, you know. And so you can go ahead and type what you know in the comments below. So I was able to have a job when I got to Georgia. So knowing that I would have to get to class on time, I just asked the principal, because I did share with her during the interview that I was moving to Georgia to go to Georgia State University for graduate school. So I asked her for the days that I had class early if I could leave right after the students to make sure that I got there in time. And she said it was okay for me to do that so that I could get to school on time. So make sure you ask your employers, your supervisors, etc., if it's all right for you to leave just a little early, or if you need to use your time off, your PTO, your vacation time, in order to leave early so that you can get to your class over the course of the semester. Let's say you have a class, and if you want to beat traffic in order to get there in person on time, just ask. You never know what they are willing to do to help accommodate you. Now, there's something else I want to add before I talk about that position any further. So just to backtrack a little bit, I do want to explain that I did share with my principal in Maryland that I was looking for positions. And so I was looking for positions not only in Georgia, but also in Maryland, particularly positions at the Maryland State Department of Education or at the central office. I was interested in earning more money. Let me tell you what made me seek out more jobs and other opportunities to move. In Prince George's County, they have a STEP program, meaning salary is based on not only the number of years that you taught, but also your degrees. So when I started, I had a bachelor's. So at that time in 2012, I had a master's. And do you know that they froze the steps? So although I had an advanced degree, a master's of education, and I had 5 years of teaching experience, they not only held me to my first year salary, but they also did not give me the $8,000 raise that I was due as a result of earning my master's degree. That also meant someone who came in after me with a master's degree would get paid more than me. That was not fair in my book. And on top of that, when I started my master's program, that was the same year that Prince George's County ended the tuition reimbursement program. I'm like, this is crazy. People are willing to keep teaching if you allow them to get the pay and the step increases that they're due based upon their years of experience in education. And tuition reimbursement was an incentive for teachers to go back to school and earn an advanced degree, not only to get a raise, but also to get it paid for at the same time. Teaching salaries are not what they need to be. They're inadequate. Teachers need to be paid a whole lot more for the work that they do. So the denial of my $8,000 raise for having a master's degree and being frozen as a first-year teacher with a bachelor's degree, even though I had 5 years of experience, motivated me to seek out other opportunities of employment. I was grateful that I was able to get a job at the county in Georgia. I was accepted into the Master's of Public Policy program at Georgia State University. And so that was starting in January of 2013. The principal in Georgia recommended that I give myself a week to settle in and get situated. And so I did. I did not tell my students that I was leaving until the first week of January 2013, the week that they came back from winter break. I was there up until that Friday. That Friday, I took off so that I could start my move to Atlanta, Georgia. And so I told them on that last day that I was supposed to see them. We were on an A-B schedule. I told them that I would be leaving and moving to go to school in Georgia. They were disappointed, but the interesting thing was one of the students remembered what I told them at the beginning of the school year. We had our goals posted up on the bulletin board inside the classroom. So I put my goals up on the board as well. And one of my goals was to get a PhD. So one of the students told whoever asked, "Why are you leaving us?" Because let me tell you this, you know who will cling to you? Young people. So they were like, "Why are you leaving us?" And a student said, "Don't you remember? She told us that she was going to get her PhD." And I said, "Yes, I am going to school and I'm going to get my PhD." So I left in January. And on January 4th, I packed up all my belongings into that two-door Honda Accord. I was living with my parents previously, and that was something else that inspired me to move. I was saying to myself how I can't even afford to live in Prince George's County on the salary by myself. People who live in PG County, and they are teachers. They seem to be either married or had roommates, or they worked all year round. So they did after school programs for more money. They did summer school for more money. They did other jobs for more money. Like they worked so hard. And so I wasn't willing to do all of that because I knew myself. I was like, these 9 months are a lot for me. I'm tired. I don't want to be worn out. I want to be fresh for the students. I don't want to be worn out. Now, I would have been worn out, but people are different. While I might be worn out, somebody else could be just fine. So that's what I was like. I got to do something else for myself. And I packed everything that I owned and put it in that two-door Honda Accord. I stopped in Greensboro at a friend of the family's house, so I didn't have to drive all the way at one time. This time, I decided to use some wisdom. And so I got back on the road that Saturday. And I made it the rest of the way to Atlanta, Georgia. Because I wasn't sure about where to start off as far as housing was concerned, I made arrangements to stay in off-campus student housing to give myself time to adjust and figure out what neighborhood I wanted to live in. I also wanted to go ahead and buy if possible. One of the reasons I started off in off-campus student housing was because I learned from one of my girlfriends who lived in Atlanta that things can turn in Atlanta in terms of the neighborhood really quick. I figured starting off in off-campus student housing would be a safe place to begin, and that would give me a chance to look around and learn the area. Now, before I go too far from this point, I do want to share that I did let my colleagues know, my fellow teachers know, before winter break that I did get into Georgia State University and that I would be teaching at a school in one of the counties near Atlanta. I shared with one teacher in particular that this school would be promising because it was a Title I school, and if I taught there for 5 years, then I would qualify for the STEM teacher loan forgiveness program. Now, the teacher that I was speaking with shared with me in a conversation that took all of 5 minutes, the school that we teach in is a Title I high school. Even though it doesn't say Title I, when he looked at the characteristics of Title I schools, he realized that the school that we taught at seemed to meet the criteria. And so he called up his loan servicing company and they confirmed that the school that we taught at was indeed on the list of Title I schools and qualified for the STEM teacher loan forgiveness program. And I was like, what? Are you serious? So, because I worked 5.5 years at that school, I already completed the time necessary to qualify for that STEM teacher loan forgiveness program. This 5-minute blessing resulted in a $17,500 loan forgiveness blessing. So make sure that you're not only kind to people, but stop and have a conversation with folks every once in a while. You never know what information can be exchanged in a short conversation that can change your life. So as a result of that conversation, I followed up with my loan servicing program and I was able to get $17,500 of student loans forgiven as a result of being a STEM teacher for 5 years at a Title I school. So between loans that I had for undergrad and my master's program, I decided to put the amount towards the master's program because the interest rate changed so much from the time that I went to undergrad to graduate school. The loans for undergraduate were just above 2%, whereas the loans for graduate school at that time were just around 6%. So that made a big difference when it came to what I would be left with in terms of repaying loans. So in the next episode, I'll get back to what happened as I transitioned to Atlanta, Georgia to teach and to go to school. So based upon this episode, I do want to encourage you to stay persistent. When you're dealing with unexpected circumstances, navigating challenges such as having a car accident or having immediate financial need and therefore needing to find a job, stay persistent. Even if it seems like opportunities are limited, persistence in your job search and a proactive approach can pay off. In addition to applying for jobs and attending job fairs, make sure that you advocate for yourself. Speak up. Let people know that you're serious about being able to solve a problem at their place of employment. Ask for what you need. Don't hesitate to ask for accommodations at work, whether it's leaving early for personal development or balancing other responsibilities. Be open to new opportunities. Be ready to adjust your plans when unexpected challenges arise, and trust that the right opportunity will present itself in time. I also want to encourage you in your faith and patience. Maintaining a positive mindset and trusting the process can be crucial, especially when navigating uncertainty. If you feel undervalued or stagnant in your current role, seek out opportunities where your skills and experiences are rewarded. When relocating or making a big move, take the time to research and plan ahead, even if that means considering temporary housing until you get familiar with the area. Share your goals with others and hold yourself accountable for achieving them. It's okay if those goals lead to difficult decisions like leaving a current job. Also, you don't have to overwork yourself to make ends meet. Find a balance that allows you to stay fresh and motivated in your professional and personal life. Once again, thank you for listening to another episode of the Black-Liberation.Tech podcast. I am your host, Dr. Renee Jordan. Please be sure to like, subscribe, and share, rate, and review the podcast to help it become more discoverable. And until next time, take care. Bye-bye.